Hi, my name is Susie with the Speckled Loon. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. I hope you enjoyed today's video. It was inspired by all things fall, the forest, fresh air, flannels, and slapjacks. What do these things have in common? Well, Mr. Paul Bunyan, Minnesota's favorite lumberjack, and Paul's BFF, Babe, the big blue ox. Paul and Babe are a huge part of Minnesota folklore, and there's statues of him all over the state. In fact, we drive past one in Bemidji on our way to the lake. So we enjoy Paul and Babe. I've enjoyed them since I was little. My parents took me there probably when I was 5 or 6 to see that statue, years and years ago. So what I have done, I have put together 8 great projects for us to do today. I pulled out all the stops. I used everything from my hair dryer to my Cricut to a mini heat press to my Glowforge. All the tools to make all the things today. And hopefully some of this inspires you to make some of your own lumberjack tiered tray decor. Let's get into today's projects.
So you're going to see several common themes running through all today's projects. First of all, the red and black signature plaid shirt that Paul Bunyan wears. We'll see red and black plaid throughout several of our projects. The blue of his denim and the blue of Babe the Blue Ox, leather work boots, lumberjack tools, things that just inspire me from the North Woods of Minnesota. All these things are going to be in today's projects. Project number 1, Paul Bunyan mini sign. Everything on this project I cut on my Glowforge. There's a backer that is black on one side and white on the other, and we're going to use the black side on it. And then the little hat for him, which is buffalo check paper on it. I'm going to show you how I got that on there. And this is a background painted with crimson red from Waverly, and it's buffalo check. And then Paul himself, and he is the same material where it's black board on one side, white board on the other. All of these items you could easily cut on your Cricut or just with a paper trimmer if you wanted to, and then just use pattern paper. This is just how I chose to do it. And when I have the red, I paint the board first and then I cut it. Then I don't have to paint afterwards. But what I'm using here is the Starbond thin glue, and I'm just putting a drop in each little square. And I'm going to take the time to line it up very good because this does very quickly set. So I set it up on a nice flat surface and get it all lined up, and that's how that looks. Next, I'm going to apply Paul in the same manner. I'm going to put a few drops in the back of him and lay him on top of that surface, just making sure I don't get any drips on there. And then I'm going to put on his hat in the same manner. And he is good to go. I am going to distress him a bit. I'm using some fine grit, 220 grit actually, sandpaper around the edges of his beard. And this is just going to give him a little more definition. He's going to look a little better. It doesn't show up great on camera, but in the final picture, I do a close-up so you can see it a little bit better. Project number 2, Babe the Blue Ox round sign. So for this project, since it is a round sign, I actually cut out a little stand for Babe so he won't roll around on the tiered tray. It keeps him more secured for round signs. I like to have a little stand for them. And then Babe himself is painted in Cascade Blue, which is a color by Folk Art Home Decor chalk paint. And this is the same material that I used in the sign previous, whiteboard, and I have engraved some shiplap signs on it. He'd also look good on the black, but I'm going for where I want him on the white for this project. So I'm going to set that aside for now. I'm going to give the 1/8 inch plywood here just a quick little sand, and I'm going to go ahead and dab it on with a little sponge dauber, cosmetic wedge actually. Oh my god, I'm in a big pack from Walmart, and I tap it on, and then I just wipe it off with either a wet paper towel or a dry paper towel, depending on the look I'm going for. I think on this one I used a wet paper towel. And then once it's all wiped off, I'll just set that aside and we'll get to work on Babe. The antique wax is by Waverly and available at Walmart. Dries very quickly. So for Babe, again, he's painted in that Cascade blue. All I have to do is use some of this Starbond Thin, and that's what I'm going to put on him for an adhesive. So I'll just apply a little bit to the back, press them both together. The nice thing about this is if you do not have a Glowforge, but maybe you have a Cricut and some chipboard or some heavy patterned cardstock with the shiplap sign lines on them, you could just cut a circle and then cut Babe out of vinyl or cardstock and put him on like that and recreate this very easily. It's very basic shapes. But in the end, that is what he looks like. And I can't wait to see him on the tiered tray with the rest of our projects. Project number 3, the Minnesota Home Mini Sign. Again, this is just a design that I purchased off a creator in Etsy, and I modified it a little bit, but I will leave the link to that shop below. And I'm going to be using the black background. I've got the Minnesota Home. It originally just said Home, and I just used my Sure Cuts a Lot 5 software. Again, I'll leave that link below. And I modified it, and then I've got the Buffalo Check pre-cut and pre-painted with the crimson red. We'll be putting this all together with our Starbond Thin again. Again, this is something you could easily recreate with just chipboard in your Cricut or your Silhouette or whatever electronic die cutting machine you have. Or maybe you've gotten some pre-cut wooden shapes from somewhere and you can recreate this look with some scrapbook paper as well. There's all kinds of great pattern scrapbook paper available at Hobby Lobby. But I'm basically just gluing these together in the same manner that I did the previous projects, making sure they're all lined up. I like to put my items on beforehand, before I apply the glue, to make sure I know what placement I want, and then press them together. And it's easy as that. You have got your Minnesota Home Buffalo Check background sign. Project number 4, beaded garland with a wood tag and tassel. For this project, I gathered together an assortment of wood beads from various places. Some I painted, like the little blue ones. Other ones I got on Amazon, like the pattern ones on the upper left and those black ones. And this was a pre-painted beaded garland I got from the Christmas section at Hobby Lobby, and it was 40% off. And I just kind of went the lazy way and got them pre-colored because I like the red and it saved me a little time. The bigger ones I'm using are 20 millimeter and the small ones are 16 millimeters wood beads. The ones I purchased from Amazon, I will leave the link in the description box below for you. And so basically I'm just tying this off. And next up, I'm going to show you how I painted these blue beads. What I did was I took the beads that I needed, 6 of them, took a little dollop of the Cascade blue that I'm going to do, and poured in just a smidge of water and mixed it up so it was almost like the consistency of a stain. Then I go ahead and continue to mix till it looks good, and I throw the beads in and shake them with the lid on, and it looks pretty good. And I take them and I transfer them to a separate dry container that I've used to mix other colors of paint in before. And then I'm going to take out my blow dryer, and I'm just going to have it on the cool setting but on high, and I'm going to blow them around in there, and then that's going to dry them very evenly so they have a good consistency. And after you do this, if you don't like the coverage, you can just throw them back in that stain again and repeat the process. So that's what they're looking like. Here in a minute, I'll show one up close. But I was going to talk briefly about what I'm doing this tier trade for. Normally I do them and it's a DIY kit you can buy on my website. However, for this one, I'm just keeping it as just a fun project that inspired me to do. And the reason I'm doing it is a dear friend asked me to make a tiered tray for a silent auction benefit that one of her friends is One of her friends has a daughter that has been battling cancer for a long time, and it's to benefit the daughter and the family. So that is why I'm doing this tiered tray, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But right now, I want to show you the Arteza wood tag. I get them in a bundle from Arteza, or Arteza, however you say it, and I'll leave that link below. And I put it in the engrave selection on my Glowforge. And what I did there was I put it in there, positioned the image over it, and set it on engrave. So what I have here is my beads. The 6 little ones here I'm setting aside. Those are the 3 that I'll do at the very beginning and end when I attach the tag and the tassel. But right now I'm just putting them quickly on this string. I've sped it way up because it's very repetitive. But I just added a little duct tape to the end of my string. And the string that I'm using is baker's twine. It's a big pack with I think 15 or 12 different colors. I got it from Amazon. Again, I'll leave that link below. And I'm just getting them all strung up. I'm using a 20 millimeter big one, and all the rest are 16 millimeters. The ones that look like they are white are actually natural, unfinished, and unpainted. And they're just kind of ties in all the colors that we're using in our project. It measures about 1 foot, which is great because now we're going to add a tassel and a tag that will add a little more length to it. To make the tassel, I just gathered together both the red and white and black and white, and I put them around my squeegee that I use from my vinyl 15 times, snap it, and then I cut off a string, and I slide it underneath, and I get it towards the top, and then at the bottom here, I'm going to just do one little tie, and then I cut it, and then I even it out, and then I make that tie much tighter at the top. Just a double knot is all I do. And then I'm taking another little piece of twine to make kind of the head of the tassel, I guess you'd call it, that little bump at the top. And I tie that a couple times into a double knot, and then bring that down, and then I just give it a haircut so they're all the same length. And then your tassel is done. It's super easy to do. Then I'm just stringing on the 3 beads that I want on the one end in front of the tag, and I just feed with a skewer, or I think that's actually my weeding tool. I push it up through the beads, and then I make a knot on the inside of the first big bead, and then I just hide the knot within that big bead. Then I repeat the process on the other side. I put in those last 3 little accent beads that I want to do at the end, and then I take my tassel and I loop that back up through that big bead, and then I take the end of the twine from the garland and the tassel, tie them together, and hide them underneath that big bead. And there you have your wood bead garland. I love how it looks and ties everything together. I'd like to thank you for sticking with us this far through all these projects. If you like what you see, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. We also are on social media. The Speckled Loon is on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and of course YouTube. Feel free to click the links below to follow us. Also, if you would like to support our channel, you can also shop thespeckedloon.com. Just go over there, click shop, and you'll see everything that we have for sale, including whatever I'm currently offering for DIY kits. I usually have 1 or 2 kits up at a time, and you can shop them and give these projects a try if you would like to make something yourself. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now back to the projects. Project number 5, Wood Icon Banner. I like to make a little banner for my tier trays. I think they're kind of fun. And I'm going to just be using my scissors, my twine, my paint markers from Arteza on a couple things, and then also staining things with my antique wax from Waverly. Again, that I got at Walmart. For the markers, I will leave the link to that pack below. They've got several different colors, and you should be able to find what you need. These are the little shapes that I am going to be painting, and I'm using the paint markers on the little saw, and the rest I'm just going to be using the antique wax. So I'm going to set everything aside, and the first thing I like to do before I paint, since this was 1/8 inch plywood, I like to go over each little item with some 220 grit sandpaper, get all the dust off, and then get my antique wax. And again, I'm just using that little cosmetic wedge from Walmart, and I do the front and the back so they look finished. And I'm going to do that on all these items. So, as I said before, this whole set, including the tier tray that I make at the end, it's going to go to benefit a young gal in Bemidji, Minnesota that has been battling cancer, and she actually has lost her leg to it, I believe. So I wanted to do this so the family would have something to have at that silent auction and hopefully get some good money for it. And since they do live in Bemidji, this is why I went with the Paul Bunyan theme. Since his statue is there, it's right near a lake place, so I'm able to get it to them, and hopefully it will grab a great price for them at their auction. So what I'm doing here is on this little saw, I've got the metallic silver marker. I'm just coloring that in, and I'm going to do the same thing on the front and the back. And then where the handle is, I'm going to take and use the brown marker. Now these Arteza paint markers are really nice because the tip is interchangeable. You pull it out with a pair of tweezers and flip it over, and then you have a fine tip. And it also comes with replacement tips, which is very nice. So that's why I like to use them for these little fine detail projects when you just need a bit of paint and don't want to use a large amount. So now I'm going to just do like I did with the beaded garland. I put a little piece of tape at the end of my string. And again, this is that same twine that I got off of Amazon, and I'll leave that link below. And I'm just going to loop everything through and get it all attached. Now, right now, I do not have this as a DIY kit on my website, but if you would like me to add it on, just leave a comment below, and I will consider adding it when I have time in my rotation to put that on there. And now our wood icon banner is all ready to hang on our tiered tray. Project number 6, burlap feed bag for Babe the Blue Ox. Babe, of course, needs a little bag to keep his feed in, so I have got this little HTV transfer that I cut out, and I use Westmoreland font on my Cricut, and I'll show more about my Cricut later. And I'm using some burlap ribbon, wire cutters, little hay bale, the Cricut mini heat press, and my super old glue gun, and then some silicone makeup brushes and finger protectors. I'm going to take out the little mini heat press. And again, this is from Cricut. I'll leave the link below. I am a Cricut affiliate and will get a small commission, as well as Amazon affiliate on anything that I leave. And it doesn't cost you anything extra, but I just get a little bit of money or commission off of it if you use my link to order. So for that, I thank you. But basically, I have this plugged in now. I'm going to turn it on by pressing the little button. And then there's 3 little indicator lights. I want to press it one more time so the second indicator light comes on. That is the setting I need for my heat transfer vinyl that I got from Heat Transfer Warehouse just down the road from me in Fargo, North Dakota. And they have super fast shipping. I really like working with them. But now I need to figure out how to get this wire out of the ribbon because I need it to be a little more flexible. So I tried the wire cutters. They don't really work. But I get it going and pull it a little bit, and then I take one of my small paintbrushes and kind of wrap it around the handle of that just to get a good grip. And then I just pull it right out and set that aside. I can use that for another project. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And once that is ready to roll, then we're ready to glue it together. So next I'm going to plug in my old glue gun. It's probably 25 or 30 years old, but I like it because the base plugs in and then the gun itself is cordless when it's ready to go. So, and it has that little indicator light. I'm just figuring out where I want my decal. My burlap ribbon's about 12 inches long, and I left a lot of room at the top because I'm going to be tying that off at the end. But I'm just doing a bead of glue here on each side, and not all the way up, kind of about halfway or 3/4 of the way up anyways. Then I'm just going to take some paper towels after this, but first I'm going to put the decal on, and I put the foil in because the burlap's so loose I don't want the heat transfer vinyl to stick to the back. So then we're going to do this, and I first think I need the foil, but I don't. And I go about 20 seconds with some really good pressure and make sure it's all on there, and then I go over again with the foil to protect it. Then I turn it off. Then I'm going to take some torn up paper towels and stuff this. So I get those and I just stuff them down with the end of my paintbrush. And the only thing I use from the Dollar Tree on this project, because my Dollar Tree has no craft projects, is this little bale of hay. I snip it, the wire on it, to get it loose and get some loose pieces. And I put a big dollop of hot glue at the top and put the hay on top, so it's going to be sticking out of the top a little bit. So I tie it super tight with my twine, and then I'm going to go ahead and snip off the top and put in another dollop of hot glue and a little bit more of that hay. I'm sure your Dollar Tree has better craft supplies. For some reason, I've got 2 in my town, and I do not have good luck finding stuff there. I did find the little pink finger protectors and that hay bale, though, and I'm using them in this project. So there is our feed bag. I hope you like it. Project number 7. We are going to be working more with those wood slices and making some wood slice accents for our tiered tray. Again, I got these wood slices from Arteza, and I'll leave the link below. I think you get 30 or 40 in the pack, and they're so versatile. Also, we'll be using some Mod Podge. We're going to be using, of course, a little sandpaper, and I picked up some just open lot pattern paper from Hobby Lobby when they had it for sale. I think it's on sale every other week. I'm just cutting a small piece for each wood slice. And we're going to be using the Cricut for this video. If you ever need a more detailed tutorial for the Cricut, just leave a comment in the link below. I'm going to just be doing a very high level basic thing. But basically what I'm doing is a light coat of Mod Podge, and I'm not doing a coat on the top yet. I'm just doing a nice, even, generous coat on the wood slice and placing the paper over it, and then I'm putting a little bit of weight on it by using the cup that's over to the left that I have full of twigs that I'm going to be using later. So I go ahead and do that to all my slices. I press it down very good, and I go ahead and put them under the cup. And then I'm going to let them dry and set them to the side. And then once they are dry, we are going to come back and sand the edges off. And what I'm using to sand the edges, you'll see in a minute, is that same 220 grit sandpaper that we used before. And here they're all dry. Probably let them dry for an hour or so while I was doing other projects. I don't like to dry with a heat gun. It sometimes can bubble. This way I don't get bubbles. But I'm just taking my sanding paper and going around each one in a downward motion, then doing a light coat of Mod Podge on top. And there they are, all finished with a nice clean edge around each and every one of them. So now we're going to take out the Cricut. And I'm just doing this off my phone. I've already typed the words in. Again, I'm using that Westmoreland font and another font. And I've made 3 little sayings for our wood tags. One I'm going to leave with no saying on it. One says, I love flapjacks and flannel. One says free firewood, and one says we'll work for hay. And that's going to go with our little feed bag. But basically, I loaded them up, and then I have pressed to where they're on my mat. I'm using Oracle 651 vinyl in matte white and matte black. And I believe, again, I got that from Heat Transfer Warehouse. Just cutting a small section, putting the white on top, and then I'm just going to rotate it around and doing the black. It is cutting the black right now, and then it's going to cut the white. And I like being able to use it on my phone. It's very handy. I usually design on my laptop and then cut on my phone when I'm down in my craft room. And there it's doing the white ones, and then we are ready to go. Once it's done, I press the little arrow key on the left light, eject it, take them off, and I cut my excess off and set that aside for another project. And then I cut my 2 images. It's hard to see on camera, but I can see it up close. Then I'm going to weed them, and by weeding them, that just means taking away all the parts that you don't want. So the outside border, and then the insides of everything, like the little insides of the A's, the E's, any type of thing like that. But the black and white are going to work fine for this project. There's, of course, several other colors you can use, but I use a lot of black and white in my projects. And here I'm just continuing to weed out all the insides of the letters. This is very sped up. I have bad eyes. I normally have to get right in there with my eyes and do it, but I'm using this from Expressions Vinyl paper transfer tape, and this is great because it's not overly sticky. And I just rub it down really good with that little burnishing tool there. Again, I got that from Amazon. I'm lining it up on my disc. As you can see, my head gets in there because I'm really trying to get it good, and pull it back after burnishing it, and it comes right off. And I think because I had that dried Mod Podge on there, and you want to make sure your Mod Podge is dry, but it goes on there quite good. So again, I lay it down, and since these are rustic, I'm not worrying too much about placement. And I'm doing the same thing now with the last one, cutting just another piece. You can sometimes reuse this, but sometimes not. But the transfer tape is called paper transfer tape, and I got it from Expressions Vinyl, and I believe they also have a store on Amazon. But I'll leave you a link to the one that I use. It's just a small 6-inch roll, ideal for small projects. So then I'm taking the last one, doing our one that looks kind of like faux birch wood, which we have in the forest here at our lake place. And then I'm going to just antique them up a little bit, get them a little more rustic looking. Just putting a little bit of antique wax around edges over the whole front thing. It does darken it up. It's hard to tell on camera, but it does darken it up a little bit. Again, you can't see it that great on camera, but it does give it just a little more of a rustic feel. I'm not big into heavy distressing, but this, since it's kind of a more masculine project and it has to deal with the forest, I just want everything to look a little roughed up. Project number 8, let's make a messy bow. For your messy bow, you are going to need some homespun fabric. I like it because it's the same on the front and the back. And these are 6-inch squares I got from Amazon. I'll leave the link below. I just fold each square in half, cut it, and then fold each half in half again, and cut it so I get 4 from each square. I also have cut a bit of burlap ribbon and taken the wire out and set that aside, and some string. And I'm just layering all the ribbon and string in a crisscross manner. And I got the inspiration to make this bow from Melanie Ferguson. She's a creator on YouTube and on Facebook. And I left a link to the search of all her messy bow tutorials down below. Make sure you give her a watch and subscribe to her channel. She's an amazing creator. Now to attach everything together, I'm just using a plastic twist tie. And then I'm laying one of my little wired strips across so it looks like a T, and I'm going to use that wired portion to adhere everything to our tiered tray. I'm just getting this super tight, moving the bump of the plastic twist tie in the back, and now I'm just continuing to fluff. You just take your ribbon and stretch it crisscross and opposite however it lies to fluff it out. And that is how you get it to go and be somewhat full instead of just in that crisscross manner. I like to attach something to the center of my messy bow to hide any plastic tie or wires or anything like that. So I'm just putting a little bit of glue on, again, one of those saw cutouts that we did earlier. And then I've got the wired ribbon in the back, and now it's ready to go. And once you continue fussing with it, then your tiered tray will have a messy bow ready to adhere. Now it's time for our bonus project, final project of the day. We're going to make a small tiered tray for everything to sit on, so it's a complete package for our donation. I am cutting out everything on my Glowforge with this. I used some 5mm plywood I found at the Home Depot. It wasn't the highest quality, but it was fine. It cut okay. There was a couple of rough spots, but I fixed those up. And I cut it out of my Glowforge. And I'm just using Starbond thick adhesive to adhere everything per the instructions that came with the file that I purchased. And I'm putting the bottom on right now. And this adhesive is fine. We don't need a heavy duty wood glue because this is a very lightweight shelf and everything that's going on it is very lightweight. So the Starbond does a great job of adhering everything without leaving a lot of residue. I just leave a little seam on the back and then I set it up. Next, I'm just going to put the sides on. So what I did is I altered these designs of the trees and the shelf, and I did that in Sure Cuts a Lot 5. It's software I've been using forever for my Cricut designs, and I'll leave that link below. It works just fine. You can also do this in Illustrator, or Inkscape is a free option. But Sure Cuts a Lot is what I know, so that's what I used. Now I'm just putting the top on and getting that adhered. And once that is all adhered, then I have these little strips that go around the top and the bottom edges to conceal any of those black edges, seams that you have, and gives it a nice finished look. I like the design of this tray, and I'll continue to use the base of it to alter it for future projects. So now I'm just making sure I've got all my glue where it's going to adhere. Hold it down for a few seconds, go to the end strip, and then your tiered tray is complete. Yay, it's time for the final reveal of a Lumberjack inspired tiered tray. I am so excited that I brought this to you and happy to share it with you. I hope you found inspiration. I brought it outside behind our property to take a little shot of it in its final state in the forest right behind us. And I think it's just a beautiful setting. I hope this has inspired you to make your own lumberjack decor. And I hope that I've taught you something of value and you get something from this video. But for now, this is Susie from the Speckled Loon. I'd like to thank you for watching and sticking through the end of this project. And don't forget to look for the loon. Bye for now.